When I was about 5 years old, my parents started bringing me here in the back of the station wagon because our next door neighbors were hiking the Appalachian Trail and got lost, and called my parents and said, "I've just found the most beautiful place in the world, you've got to come see it." For me, as a kid, this place was an escape. I think I took it for granted, maybe a little too much, but when I got older and I traveled and I had a job in a city, I was never homesick for Chapel Hill. I was always homesick for this place. And at my earliest opportunity, I quit my job and I moved here to write full-time, and I became utterly dependent on serenity and solitude and the spectacle of this place. My favorite thing is to lead people on hikes up here for the first time. You just feel like you're swinging a door open and people enter this landscape, and a lot of people come with high expectations because they've read about the Rhone Highlands or they've heard about it from people that have been here. Whether it's foggy, snowy, bright sunshine, whatever the weather is, the Rhone, it just delivers this amazing experience, and people feel changed when they leave this landscape. I was minding my own business, trying to find my fictional writing voice on the day that they pulled the first shot at the mine site. They'd been drilling for 3 weeks into granite. They packed the holes full of dynamite, and then they pulled that first shot. I felt like every tree on Big Yellow Mountain was going to lay over flat. I felt like the sky changed. I felt like clouds moved. It was a paradise lost moment. It was definitely, there was time before that blast, and then there was everything that came after that blast. It was the postmistress that told me that that was going to be Paul Brown's Rock Crusher, and it was going to be the largest surface mine in western North Carolina, and they have a 99-year lease to do this 365 days a year. And the idea was to go up to the top of the mountain and pull it down over 99 years. Not long after the mine company pulled the first shot, I got a telephone call from a very articulate woman who happened to be a 14-year-old girl. And Ashley Cook told me the story from her perspective. I knew it from my perspective. I knew it from up on the slope of Big Yellow Mountain, but to hear it from down at the entrance to the Hall Road, where Ashley and Ollie were experiencing it every day with the truck traffic, it was immediately apparent to me that if I was going to have any success in this case, it was going to be built around their story and their cracked foundation on their house.
For 4 years, Ollie and her son Freddie had been building this house with their own hands. Then the neighbors moved in at the invitation of the state.
And once he takes off the top of the ridge, it's going to be visible from Grandfather Mountain, I'm sure. It's a disgrace.
Destroying that mountain, and it's tore all to pieces now. Dynamiting.
I'm fighting, I'm working every day to see that this is stopped.
But there's more here than your typical spat between angry homeowners and a determined company. There's a lot more here. The Appalachian Trail is right here, just 2 miles from the mine. Had the state known that, it might never have granted the mining permit, which begs the question, why didn't the state know that?
Ollie told me early on, she said, "I have never won at nothing." And I told her, I said, "You're going to win at this." And that kept me going. The idea that Ollie, who had had some tough breaks in her life, was going to win at something really big, something really important, something that was going to set a precedent, that was going to be cited in cases throughout the court system. That was one of the things when I got low that kept me going, that Ollie is right, and Ollie has standing in this case, and the alternative is not acceptable. I started to ask questions, and I quickly learned that this permit had already been issued, and everybody I talked to in those early stages said, "It's over. Once a permit is issued, there's nothing you could do. You should have raised these concerns before the permit was issued." And so we had no chance. Nobody has ever succeeded in stopping a mining operation that has a permit. These fights usually originate in the permitting phase, and local people rise up and they state their concerns about the hydrology of their springs being changed by the blasting or the dust. We were shocked that the permit had been issued, and we started looking through the record to see why nobody had gone to the public hearings. And in this case, nobody had gone to the public hearings because there were no public hearings. And the deeper we looked into what had happened, Clark Stone Company looked at the map and their engineer looked at the map and they said, well, there are 16 neighbors around this site, but if we pull our permit boundary in 50 feet, maybe we can claim we don't join any of them. And that's exactly what they did. Around every contour on their property map, they pulled their permit boundary in 50 feet and claimed they didn't join Bellevue Mountain Baptist Church. They didn't join Bruce Zobel. They didn't join Ollie Cox. They knew they had to join somebody, so they notified, under the Mining Act of 1971, their own subsidiary paving company and gave them the opportunity to contest this permit. So they actually sent the letter to their own company, and guess what? Their own subsidiary paving company didn't want to contest the permit. They were an island unto themselves. They were their own neighbor. I like to think that we could have won the case on the notice issue, the fact that Ollie Cox was due notice and wasn't given it before the permit was issued. But the court said that you don't get the benefit of what you didn't learn at the hearings because you didn't hold the hearings. It's all interconnected. You don't know that that's a problem unless you have public hearings. And you don't have public hearings unless you give notice to somebody who has a stake in having a public hearing. So we were shit out of luck. Basically, we were told over and over and over again, dust and noise is not in the Mining Act. So we had to look at what is in the Mining Act. And protection of publicly owned parks, forests, and recreation areas is in the Mining Act as one of the things they are supposed to protect before issuing a permit. And pretty quickly, everybody knew that they didn't do that they didn't have hearings, and they did not know where the Appalachian Trail was. So the support of the Appalachian Trail community was immediate and intense, borderline overwhelming. Enough people became aware of what we were about to lose, and thousands of Appalachian Trail hikers participated in the process of making public comments about what it meant to them to potentially lose the view shed and the sense of quiet that you have in the highlands of Rhone on Hump Mountain. You could watch online the ticker going as hikers from California, Kentucky, Florida, Tokyo, hikers who had loved not only the Appalachian Trail, but this particular spot on Hump Mountain that connected with what it felt like to be there when they were there. And here they were sitting at their keyboard reflecting on that, and tears were welling up for Appalachian Trail users. There's one email that came in of a guy who said, I can't afford to travel to Yellowstone and travel to Yosemite, but this is in my backyard, and this is where I take my kids, and we go there for free. And he said, I go after work. After I leave my factory job in Kingsport, Tennessee, I go to the Appalachian Trail in the highlands of Rhone. The passionate words in those emails about what the experience is of being in a quiet wilderness place at 5,800 feet elevation in the southern Appalachians, it reads like a Bible. To fight in some ways is to be extremely alive. And I think all of us fed on the adrenaline rush of a time of rulings coming down quickly, either in our favor or not in our favor. The good rulings gave you a ton of energy and a ton of hope, and the bad rulings made you want to fight harder. 4 years is a long time, and especially for a 40-year-old, it's a tenth of your life. And typical of this modern age, I learned the final ruling of the Court of Appeals in a voicemail message on my phone, and I still haven't erased it. It was Trip Van Oppen, the lead attorney from Southern Environmental Law Center, calling to tell me that we had carried all 3 judges in the Court of Appeals. Winning all 3 judges was, I walked out in this field and I can feel it like it was yesterday, because I felt it was the promise that I had made to Ollie Cox, that you're going to win at something. You're going to win at this because you're right. That's the day I knew that we had reached that point. And that day was, I'll never forget it. I'll never forget it.